Another one of Western societies is related to the system of how many people you marry. Now, the system of multiple marriage is one which anthropologists have been concerned with. We, in Western civilization, have tended to go for what is known as monogamy, one partner of each sex. And hence those who deviate are subject to some amount of either legal or other ostracism. As a rhyme put it, there was an old party of Lyme who married 3 wives at one time. When asked why the third, he replied, "One's absurd, and bigamy, sir, is a crime." Now the joke of that, of course, is that not only is bigamy a crime, but trigamy and any number above 1 is a crime as well. Our society only allows 1 male and 1 female to marry, but a considerable number of societies, particularly in Africa and South America, allow polygamy, that is the marriage of more than 1 male or more than 1 female. When you have several females married to 1 male, you call it polygyny, and if you have several males married to 1 female, then you have polyandry. Polygyny is very widespread. It usually tends to be confined to the richer members of the society, but it has many functions, and indeed those who are brought up in such systems often regard our own monogamous system as very peculiar and rather absurd. Even the women who are sharing 1 man, as one woman put it in Africa in the 19th century, on hearing that a man in England could marry but 1 wife, several ladies exclaimed that they could not live in such a country. They could not imagine how English ladies could relish our custom. And speaking of African polygyny, the explorer and linguist Burton observes that the culture of the marriage tie is necessary among savages and barbarians, where, unlike Europe, a man's relations and connections are his only friends, besides which a multitude of wives ministers to his pride and affluence, his state and his pleasure. Because in fact, in many of these societies, as you grow rich, the best thing to invest in is human beings and human relationships, and the one relationship you can really depend on is the marital relationship. So instead of accumulating houses or consumer goods or stocks and shares, you accumulate wives. The polygynous systems are quite widespread, but less common, but equally interesting, are the Polyandrous systems, many or several husbands and 1 woman. Such systems are found particularly in the Tibetan and northern parts of India, and also in Sri Lanka and Ceylon in South America. In such systems, you often have fraternal polyandry, that is, several brothers marrying 1 woman. And there are various theories as to why this should occur. One frequent theory is that in societies where there are scarce resources, up in the highlands of Nepal or Tibet, where you want to control the population, an efficient way of doing this is for several men to marry 1 woman, because the number of children the woman is going to have, of course, is limited. It doesn't matter how many husbands she has. Another theory is that where you have a mixed agricultural system, where you have pastoralism, men needing to take the herds off long distances or trading over long distances, and also a home farm in the valley, it's useful to have several brothers, one of whom will go off and do the trading and take the animals off into the high pastures, and the other brother staying with the wife at home, and you take it in turns like this. So that polyandry is functional and useful, but in fact it's a fairly uncommon system. Some societies, in fact, combine the 2, and you have very complicated arrangements of polyandry and polygyny mixed together. Finally, there is the question of remarriage. Our society, the Catholics have not been very keen on remarriage, but on the whole, historically, there has been frequent remarriage in our society. And when a partner dies, anyway, you can remarry. In some societies, remarriage is absolutely forbidden. The extreme case is in some of the Indian societies, where a widow is so much forbidden from remarrying that in fact she has to be destroyed. Through the institution of suti, she jumps on or is placed on her husband's funeral pyre and is destroyed by fire with his death. Or you can go into permanent mourning, as Queen Victoria, of course, did. But in the West, traditionally, we have had remarriage and successive marriage. Many societies, in fact, forbid remarriage because it complicates things. Alternatively, they may take the other extreme solution, which is to very quickly marry the widow off to a relative. And here you have the institutions of levy rate, as they're known, or sorrow rate. In such a system, typically, a man who's married a girl, the girl dies, he's paid the bride wealth to her family, he's made that investment, the girl dies, and he adopts in another wife who is the girl's sister or another member of that group. So you get just an exchange there. In the true levirate, a man is obliged to beget the children on a dead brother's wife to the dead brother's name. And so you have institutions where women, men merge into each other's marriages. You have widow inheritance, whereby rights in a woman, both as a wife and a mother, pass to the man's dead kinsman. The final point is that marriage is based in our society on the idea that it's mainly about companionship, love, affection, and the relationship between husband and wife. In most societies, marriage is not set up for that purpose. It's set up for economic and reproductive purposes. Fortis put it, indeed, in many parts of Africa, marriage is most regarded and properly established by the birth of the first child. It's about increasing labor through children and strengthening your kinship group.